Direct from the Vegas Voice television studio, it's the Vegas Voice, people and places. Anything and everything for your health, wealth, and good times. And here is the host, the publisher of the Vegas Voice, Dan Roberts.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Vegas Voice edition of People and Places. I'm your host, Dan Roberts, the publisher of the Vegas Voice. And one of my great jobs is to introduce and for you to know all the great columnists that we have in our magazine. We got a great one today. His name is Howard Galin. He is our happy garden expert, and he knows stuff that I never even knew existed. So let's start with that. Howard, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I got to ask you something straight out as a fellow New Yorker. How can anybody from New York know a thing about doing gardens?
Okay, well, it's a long story. It started out when I was 10 years old, and I bought a tomato plant. I was living in Brooklyn, and I grew it, and I guess that was the impetus of becoming interested in gardening. And that continued throughout years and years and years. And then back in 1989, I took my wife and my children to across country in our car. And I brought along a pair of scissors and a knapsack, and I started taking cuttings in the Southwest of cactus, agave, anything that would last in my car until I got home. After several years, I had well over 75 plants in my den, which I then converted to a greenhouse.
How do you, and obviously you must enjoy doing it.
I do. I communicate with plants. As a matter of fact, I do lectures in schools, and a little boy came over to me and said, "Do you really speak to plants?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "You're the plant whisperer."
The plant whisperer.
And that's how I got my email address, which is theplantwhisperer28@gmail.
So then let's start with some basic questions here. Do plants actually listen to you?
Well, they communicate. I can look at them, and after doing some research, I know they're trying to communicate. I need water, I need nutrients, I need sun. And, if you look at anything that's alive, it's one way or the other, it's giving out messages. And so I guess I'm blessed that I could communicate with plants.
Do you find that most people you've been getting questions from people around the valley because of the Vegas Voice and everything. And there really is such an interest in gardening, isn't there?
Yeah, because people are basically coming to Las Vegas from all over the country, and they come with some preconceived notions that nothing can grow here. But the fact of the matter is, everything can grow here. It's just a matter of how much time you want to put in and how much money, I guess, and effort you want to put into that undertaking. So I say living here is like living in a blank canvas. There's nothing here. You can create any kind of garden you want. And since I was able to do it by going to the University of Nevada, becoming a master gardener, I can reach out. I go to schools, I go to community centers, home shows, anyone who'll have me, I'll talk to them and I'll say, you could bring anything you want here and grow it just like you did back home.
Well, then let me ask you this. You mentioned it, and we're going to discuss it again. What is the Master Garden program? I never heard of that until I met you.
The Master Garden program is nationwide, and it basically trains people in various states to learn about how to grow things and have a great garden. And you go to school, it's 85 hours of study, and then you must commit 50 hours a year to voluntary work in the community. It's basically, paying forward the education that you got through the University of Nevada. And so right now I've been doing it for 10 years. I have close to 1,000 volunteer hours. And it's just fun. And of course, with the Vegas Voice, I'm now reaching out in a publication. And at the end of all of my articles, I say, have any gardening questions? Contact me at, and I give my email address. And I always know when the Vegas Voice is coming out because I get a slew of emails. Some of them are from local people. One time I got a message from somebody in San Antonio, Texas, who just happened to cross the Vegas Voice at a library. So,
But that just shows you the power of the Vegas Voice, huh?
it's amazing, right? It's absolutely. But you see, I like to help people. I was a school administrator in New York City for 33 years. And I help not only kids, but I also help families. And so this is sort of an outgrowth. I just like to tell people how to do things that they're reluctant to do. And that's fun.
But speaking of helping, you mentioned something before we went on the air here about something that helps the Ronald McDonald House. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's just great.
Okay, for the last several years, I've been taking cuttings around my garden all spring and summer. And then I have a little program that I do with my grandchildren who live here. It says, take a plant, help a kid. And I work with Ronald McDonald House of Las Vegas. They give me a lockbox. And I just tell people, look, here are plants. I have them in pots. Take a plant and put a donation in. And I've been doing this now for about 3-4 years. And I've raised several $1,000s. And November 5th and November 6th, I'm doing it through a garage sale in Sun City Anthem. And I hope to raise money for this group.
I mean, it's just a wonderful cause. And I guess you enjoy doing it with all the work involved. But let me ask you this question, Howard. Is it work or is it a hobby? Is it enjoyment?
Well, it's enjoyment up front. It's a hobby, yes. I mean, there are certain drawbacks. Like this, I had to go to the emergency room and get a spike out of my finger because I grabbed a cactus the other day and I could not get it out. But it's my form of relaxation. As I said, I taught for 33 years in schools. It's just an outgrowth of helping people while enjoying what you're doing. And you can't ask for more than that.
Well, let's start at the beginning. Take someone like myself who doesn't have a clue about anything. And you say, oh, that's a nice plant, or that's nice, I'd like to do something. How do you start? Where do you start? What do you recommend to someone like me, a real beginner, who has no idea?
Well, first I'd say, how much time do you want to devote to it? That's
okay.
Important, because people have other things besides gardening. I'm retired, I have extra time. And then you say, well, I want to do this and that, but I also want to grow something, and you name, whether it be fruits or vegetables. And then I'll tell you what you need to do. The soil here is useless, so you need to add things to it. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, whatever it might be. I'll say, if this is what you want to do, this is what you have to do. And then it's up to the individual. Oh, maybe I want to do it. I say, easy stuff, cactus. Hard stuff, probably the hardest thing to grow in Nevada is cherries.
Cherries?
Yes, because you have to freeze the ground in January and February in order to stimulate the flowers that will then produce the berries. Well, freezing the ground in Las Vegas is difficult at best. So it requires putting ice on the ground, dry ice, whatever. And most people aren't going to do that.
Wait, including this one here. That wouldn't even think about it. Wait, but I'm going to switch gears on you now. You've been working with the Vegas Voice. We're working on this together for the Rosie the Riveter Veterans Memorial Gardens throughout Las Vegas. Can you talk a little bit about that? What's the idea behind it?
Well, first of all, I'm always in favor of recognizing those who are sort of in the background. And the concept of Rosie the Riveter goes back to World War II, when the men were in service and the women picked up their jobs, their responsibilities. And I think it's just a wonderful idea to now not compensate, but in other words, honor those who were in the background, the women. And as Rosie the Riveter was World War II, we also have the Korean War, Vietnam.
Yep.
All those. And they're the unsung heroes, because without this backbone, the country could not have survived.
But and the thing that as I started playing it and playing with it and dealing with you is that there are certain types of roses, and Howard, as I told you, so help me, The only thing I know about roses is that I have to buy 2 dozen when I get in trouble with the better half, so to speak. But these are certain roses, and it's really work. I think it's work, but it's a hobby for you.
Yeah, well, roses are very interesting plants because there are all kinds. There's tea roses, there's floribunda, and roses need special treatment, much like the people we want to honor need special treatment. And so there is a Rosie the Riveter rose, and it happens to be a very hardy, very, very productive rose, which I think is very appropriate. And why not use the rose as Rosie the Riveter to honor the women who helped us?
Again, it's something that we're going to be working on, hopefully with the Master Garden Program and the Sun Cities. But if somebody wants more information about their gardening tips, ideas, suggestions, obviously they can find you in the Vegas Voice every month, but they can email you directly. Why don't you give everybody your email address?
My email address is theplantwhisperer28. There's no reason why it's 28. It's just 28 at gmail.com. That's theplantwhisperer28 at gmail.com.
And the price for your services are?
Always free. I'm a volunteer person. I make house calls. I do. I make recommendations. And I give advice. That's what I enjoy doing. I'm at a point in my life where I want to give back in some way and help others the way I've been helped throughout my life.
And again, Howard's been very important to the Vegas Voice with a topic that we know is not being done across the country because we know all the other senior publications. So Howard, I want to thank you so much for showing up, getting here and giving us the information, and hopefully we'll have you back again.
Thank you. This was a pleasure.
Oh, there you go. And anyway, this is Dan Roberts for the Vegas Voice, People and Places, and we'll see you next time. Thank you again, Howard.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Billy Balboa. Yeah, from the Bronx. You might know my cousin, Rocky. Well, Rocky over there in Philadelphia, you don't have what I have for you folks. I got this, the Vegas Voice magazine, for your health, wealth, and all that other good stuff you're going to experience in life.